Okay, let's make a start. It's on the hour according to Apple. So if you've never been to one of these sessions before, they are exactly 60 minutes. We will end on the hour. We are going to do about 40 to 45 minutes of training, and then I'll answer your questions. And if you are new, the way questions works is, if you've got any questions whatsoever, put them in the comments wherever you are, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Type your question, but put a QQ in front, because there are lots of comments and I'll miss the question. So put a QQ in front of your question. I might find that in a bit somebody like Sarah helps me out and gives an example in case that's not clear. So ask questions. I will answer questions at the end, but I always answer them in the order they come in. I don't always get through them all. So the sooner you ask your question, the better. And in about 45 minutes from now, we'll be doing a quick poll, because you get to choose what I teach next month with this session. So today's session is what your ideal clients really want, which was the #1 vote from a month ago. This is how, by the way, if I just press this button here, that's what I mean by two capital Qs. So if you ask your questions in that format, I will see it and be able to answer it. So that's how you ask questions. There'll be a poll later to vote for next month's topic. We'll give you 5 options and you can choose what you want me to teach you in September. I'll give you the date for that later at the end when we get into the Q&A section. And the last thing I want to say before we start is, one of the things that we do here is we want to make the world a better place. We're big fans of the B1G1 organization. And one of the things we do is we pick a project for every live session we do. And for every single person here live, that's you. If you're here live, we make a contribution on your behalf. And the project we've chosen for today is over in Honduras, where life is pretty tough. And a lot of the cooking's done inside in open fires, and they have problems with health from toxic fumes. So for each and every one of you here live today, we will contribute to a project that will provide a day's worth of access to a clean cook stove to a family in Honduras. So by being here on these live sessions, you are helping making the world a better place. Okay, a few more quick shout outs. To a couple more people who have just put in the comments box I've not said hello to yet, and then we'll get straight into the content. So Maria is here from Yuma in Arizona in the US. Hi there, Maria. Great to see you again over on Facebook right now. Deborah is here. Hi there, Deborah. Great to see you. And Kelly Russell is here from British Columbia. And as I say that, a few more have come in very quickly. David, my friend from the Deep South in Murfreesboro. David Bennett is here. Hi there, David. And Chris says, thank you so much for the contributions you make. That's awesome. You're welcome. Thank you for being here, Chris. Okay, let's get into the content. We have about 40 to 45 minutes of content. And if anything I say triggers questions in your mind, remember, put the questions in the comments wherever you are. We'll get to questions in about 45 minutes, perhaps 47 minutes, because I have an announcement to make. I'm going to be inviting you and giving you a link later to a conference we're running soon, and completely free tickets. So if you like the idea of a free ticket to a conference all about value pricing, and if you don't know about it yet, you will very soon, and we'll give you the link in the comments box in about 45 minutes. So watch out for that. I can also see that Wendy is here again. Hi, Wendy. Again, lots of familiar faces. And Marina is here from Tacoma. Hi, Marina. Right, we will start. So as soon as I say that, another person comes and comments and chats, and we got Yvonne. Yvonne is here as well. Okay, I will definitely get into the content now. So today is all about what your ideal clients really want. And this is all about getting the right customers, because we all want to win the right customers. And if we want to do that, if we want better customers, better clients, then we have to speak to them. We have to speak to them in our marketing, in our presentations, in words and language that grabs their attention. And we have to be really clear on who is the right client. So we're going to cover today really 4 areas. Number 1, we're going to look at why you need to have an ideal customer profile or ideal client profile, why that's so important. We're going to talk about what are the four things that you need to know about your ideal client. We're then going to look at, well, how do you find out what it is that they want? And then once we know that, how can we turn that into the right words to put on our websites, to use in our brochures, to use in our marketing? So they're the 4 things that we're going to cover today. And let's start off with why do we need an ideal customer profile? And what I mean by that is we need to think through, what does our ideal customer look like? We should have a written description of them. And this is something I really, really wish I was taught when I started my accounting firm. I started my accounting firm as a sole practitioner in May 1996. That was a long time ago. And back then, when I started my very first business in May 1996, I thought I knew it all. But looking back, I was naive. I was really green. I didn't know much at all. And I thought starting a new business was all about winning as many customers as possible, as fast as possible. And so I welcomed everybody with open arms. I took on anybody as a client in my accounting firm. And at first that was great because I grew crazy fast. And I thought that because I was growing fast that I was super successful. I was a great accountant building this great practice. I went from 0 clients in 96 to 200 clients just 2 years later. I thought I was successful. Little did I realize afterwards how crazy stupid I had been. I was just taking on anybody, and that created problems. I had so many of the wrong clients. Clients who, many of them couldn't afford to pay me. They weren't the right type of clients. They didn't have the money to pay my fees. Many of them didn't see the value in what I did. They would argue the bills. They would dispute. They had terrible books and records. It was hard to work with them. They were a nightmare. I had so many bad clients. I had some good ones. I had some great clients, but I had lots of bad clients. And that created so many problems in my first business. I found myself 2.5 years in, towards the end of 1998. I was just working crazy hard, crazy busy, firefighting most of the time, reacting to problems, and I wasn't making money. It was a disaster. It really was. So I learned years later that we need to have some crystal clarity about, well, who is the right client? Who is the right client for our business? Who is the ideal customer? And when we know that, it has a number of benefits. Firstly, it means that when we have complete clarity on what they look like, what's important to them, what they value, then we can start to target the right prospects with our marketing. We can use the right words, the right language to target exactly who we want. It also means that in our marketing and in our sales, we can be more attractive to those people, because when we understand them better, when we understand at a deeper level, when we understand what it is they really want, and we build that into our language, into our words, into the way that we present things on our websites, in our marketing material, the words that we say in our sales meetings, when we're speaking to our ideal clients and speaking in language they understand, then we become more attractive. We attract more people through the marketing, and we convert more people in the sales process. And the third big benefit is when we understand what our clients want at a deeper level, then we serve them better. We give them better solutions. And when we serve people better, when we do a better job for them, when we give them what they really want, then they'll also happily pay higher prices. It becomes a win-win. They get what they want, we get higher prices. So we really need to be clear on who is our ideal customer. And therefore you need to think about, well, who is it? What do they look like? What does an ideal client look like to you? And what you want to think about is what are the characteristics of a great customer, a great client? And one way to start with this is think about who are your best customers right now. List your top 10 customers. What is it, and what is it about them that makes them such great customers? So it might be, for example, and I'm just going to give you some examples, it's to do with the location. Is it a particular location? Is your ideal customer based in the town you're in, or is it the area? Is it the country? Or perhaps you're global? I don't know. Not all of these characteristics will suit every type of business. You have to decide what's important to you. Is location important? If you're running a business, an accounting firm, for example, where you see every client, you're not a virtual business, then it may be that you want clients within a certain radius. If you are from a business context, is there particular sectors of business that are ideal customers? What are the ones that are great for you? Is it a particular type of business like the legal sector? Is it medical firms? Is it engineering businesses? What are the clients you prefer to deal with? And what are the ones you don't want to deal with? Be really clear on that. So when I started my accounting firm, I realized I didn't have an ideal client profile, but 2 years in, I realized there were certain types of clients that for me were a complete nightmare. And I had too many of them. And I then put them in my profile to say, I will not act for lawyers, for example. They were problematical for various reasons. It may be it's the size. If it's a business client, what's the size? It may be that you want to work with really large businesses. It may be small businesses. It may be businesses in a certain size range, like it might be owner-managed businesses, businesses between $250,000 and $5 million. So what is the size of business that's the sweet spot for you? It might be something to do with their financial viability. It may be that you are only looking to work with people who are profitable, wealthy. It may be you have premium services. It may be that you're thinking of it from a business point of view, how long they've been in business. In other words, for an accountant bookkeeper, you might find that business startups can be challenging. I found that in my first few years in practice, I seemed to attract a lot of business startups. Probably because I was a business startup myself. I'd started my practice in '96 and was going through all those growing pains of a new business. And I think people could relate to that who were starting in business, and I attracted those. But there were lots of challenges with people who were new in business. So that may be that you want to attract business startups, or it may be you're looking to attract people who've been in business for much longer. It could be things like their attitude, their drive. It may be that you want to have clients, people with a particular personality, a particular attitude. Perhaps they're ambitious, for example. Think about the personal side of things, as well as the physical attributes like location, like size. For an accountant, bookkeeper, it may be you have a particular accounting system that you want them to be on. It may be that you will only deal with customers if they have an online presence, for example. It may be only acting for people who are willing to refer you to other people. And they're just a small number of different possible characteristics. You need to think about what are the characteristics that help to define your particular ideal client. So that brings me on to a question that I know sometimes goes through people's minds when I talk about ideal customer profiles. Think about your ideal customer. And that is, should you niche? Should you really drill down to a specialist niche? And the answer to that is, it's entirely up to you. But it's been shown time and time again that businesses that specialize, that narrow down, specialists make more money than the generalist. And you see that in so many industries. The classic example people give is the medical profession. The heart surgeon will make a lot more money than the general practitioner. It's the same in the accounting profession. It's the same in the legal profession. It's the same in most businesses. When you really narrow down a niche, you will make more money. But that's entirely up to you. That's a decision you need to make. Because another question people ask me is, well, could I have two different ideal client profiles? And yes, you could. You could have 3, you could have 4, you could have different types of client or customer that you're targeting. If I think about my business, I have 2 because I work with both accountants and bookkeepers. And they have slightly different needs and slightly different issues. So I do have 2. And so if you've got different segments of customer that you're working with, then create an ideal customer segment or profile for each one. Have a really clear picture. But remember, the more you specialize, the more you narrow down, then the more successful you are likely to be. Okay, so that's why you need to have an ideal client profile, and that's what one might look like. It's a description. Sometimes it's referred to as a customer avatar. It's a description of what that ideal customer might look like. So let's move on to what are the 4 key things that you need to know about your ideal customers. And the first thing that you want to know is, what are their frustrations? What are the frustrations they have, the challenges, the problems? What's the pain that they're going through? You need to understand what are the frustrations. And the reason for that is because when people come to you to buy, they come because they've got a problem and you've got a solution to that problem. And so the better that you understand the problem, and in particular, if you can describe your customer's problem better than they can, if you just know exactly what their problem is, then you're going to win more business when you know what their problems are. So that's the first thing that you have to figure out. You need to find out what are the current frustrations, the problems, the challenges of your ideal client. Number 2, the second thing you want to know is, what are their fears? What is it that keeps them awake at night? What do they worry about? What's the worst thing that could possibly happen to them if the problem they have isn't solved? So, examples, it might well be that they worry about losing their business. So the problem might be cash flow. They're worried about cash flow. The fear is they lose their business. The fear could be they don't have a job. The fear could be meeting the payroll at the end of the month. So think about what are the things that keep your ideal customer awake at night? What are the fears? And great supplementary things to find out related to that is, and how does that make them feel? How does it make them feel? What are the emotions that are attached to that? What are the emotions? How do they feel about the fact that they've got this fear that because of this problem, they might lose their business? What's the emotions around that? What might happen to them financially? We want to really start to understand these fears. So that's number 2. Number 3, the third thing is, what are their immediate wants? What do they want right now? And this is very often the opposite to the first one, the frustrations, the problems, the challenges. What are the wants? So it might be, for example, that their problem right now is the frustration is they're not making money. What they want is more profit if they're a business. It may be they want more sales. Perhaps it's better cash flow. Perhaps it's they just want fewer problems in their life. Perhaps they want less stress. They want to reduce the risk in their life, in their business. It could be lower tax bills. It could be, if they're a business owner, they want a business that's more sellable, that's easy to sell, because perhaps they're getting close to that date when they're thinking about retirement, they're thinking about exit. Perhaps they want a business that's worth more valuable business. What is it that your ideal customers want? And they might want more than one of these things. You need to find out, what are they? What are the things that they want? Because the better you understand these things, as we said earlier, you'll start to build that into all of your marketing. And when you build this into your marketing, you'll target the right clients, you'll attract the right clients. So that was number 3. So we've got number 1, frustrations or challenges, problems. Number 2, the fears, what keeps them awake at night. Number 3 is what they want. And number 4, the fourth thing we need to understand is, what do they aspire to? What do they dream about? What are their goals? What's important to them? What do they want out of their life? And this is, even in a business-to-business context, this is often more personal. What do people want? Because business is only just a means to an end. The reason for having a business is to get more out of life. So what is it? What do they aspire to? What do they dream about? Maybe it's, if they're not in business, if it's an individual, maybe they want more take-home pay, maybe more cash. It may be they want more. They want more time. They want a better work-life balance. They want to spend more time with the children, more time with their partner. Perhaps they want more investment income. Perhaps it's more wealth. Perhaps they aspire to, they dream about a worry-free retirement. Perhaps it's they want to be debt-free. They want to get the mortgage paid off. It may be that they've always wanted a Ferrari, a fast car, a big house. That house in the sun by the beach. Perhaps they want a great education for their kids. Perhaps it's the world cruise they want to take. What is it they dream about? What is it they aspire to? We need to figure that out. We need to know. Because the better we understand that, we can build that into all of our promotion. We can start to use the right language, the right words. So now let's move on to, so how do we figure out this stuff? How do we find out what our ideal clients want? And of course, first, you have to have an ideal client. Who is your ideal client? So we start off there, and then we want to find out. And the way to find out what people want is really simple, is we ask. It's as simple as that. There you go. We just ask. But there are many different ways of asking. There are many different techniques, ideas that we can use to start to gather this information. And a great starting point is to ask your existing ideal customers. So who are your favorite customers? Who do you love working with? Who are the people you think of when you start to create your ideal customer profile? Who are they? Who are your A-grade customers? And just ask them. You could ask them next time you meet with them. You could ask them, just say you're doing some research, and one of the things you want to do is make sure you serve your customers better, and you'd love to know, what are the challenges they're facing right now? What are the problems in their business? What's the problems in their life? What are the things that they worry about? What keeps them awake at night? Ask them those questions. Ask them what they really want, what they're looking for right now. What could you do for them? What could you do for them? What would they want you to do? And what might be their dreams, their aspirations, their goals? What do they want out of their life? Just ask the questions and start to look for some themes coming through. What is it that they're asking for? Because you will very often find that the more narrowly you defined your ideal customer, when you know your ideal customer, they'll have certain things that are in common. So, for example, using my business as an example, I work with bookkeepers and accountants. And when I ask bookkeepers, when I ask accountants, what's their biggest challenge? What are their problems? What's the frustrations? There are a number that come up, but the one that comes up the most, and almost every single time, is bookkeepers and accountants tell me they're working crazy hard, long hours, and struggling to make ends meet. That's the main frustration. And so if you've ever seen any of my promotional material, I use that a lot because that's what they're telling me. Most bookkeepers, most accountants, believe it or not, are working crazy hard, crazy long hours, struggling to make ends meet. And you will find the same thing when you talk to your ideal customers. There'll be certain themes coming through. There'll be certain words that they're using. And this is gold. When you start to get this information, this is that they're giving you your marketing words. They're giving you your marketing words. So start off by asking your existing customers, either next time you meet with them. If you're not allowed to meet with them, phone them up, call them, speak to them. Or it may be you email them and ask some questions. It may be you send out a survey. There are lots of different ways to do surveys. Personally, with existing customers, with your ideal customers, I would ask them. You'll get better answers when you physically ask. And if they're great customers, why would you not want to talk to them? So that's where I would start off. I'd start off with your existing customers. But then you can start to go out to, for example, communities of where ideal clients hang out. people you'd like to have as ideal clients. And social media is great for this. We can use social media. So carry out surveys using, for example, Facebook. If you have your own Facebook group full of business owners, use your Facebook group to regularly post questions, post polls, and seek feedback. Ask them those things. Tell me, what's your biggest frustration right now? And if you've got an active Facebook group, people will answer that. They'll tell you what their frustrations are, and you can start to collect that information. So if you have your own Facebook group, that's a great way to go. Or if you don't, or even if you do, join other Facebook groups where your ideal clients hang out. That's a very easy thing to do. So again, in my business, I help accountants and bookkeepers. And so I have joined many Facebook groups that contain bookkeepers and accountants. And what I do in those Facebook groups is I regularly look at what are the questions that are coming up, what are the problems people post, what are the things that they're saying. If I see people saying regularly in groups, I have no idea how to price cleanup work. I tried value pricing, it went horribly wrong, so I went back to charging based on the hour. And if I see lots of people posting that and people commenting, yes, I agree, I found that really hard to do, then I'm getting this information as to what is a big frustration right now with one of my ideal customer profiles. It's people who are struggling with cleanup work. You can learn so much from what's going on in the conversations in Facebook groups of where your ideal clients hang out. So I can't stress enough how valuable that is as a free resource to just go and find the groups where those people hang out and then start looking at what people are saying. You can also post your own questions in those groups, just like you might in your own group. If you haven't got your own group, go to other people's groups and ask those questions. Tell me, what's the biggest problem you're facing right now? What's the biggest frustration? If you could have anything out of life next, what would you want? And just ask some different questions and collect that information. I gave you those 4 things you want to find out. They're the most important 4 things. You want to know what their frustrations are, what their fears are, what their wants are, and what their aspirations are, for sure. But you can get asked for other things as well. What other things matter to them? What are their values? And interesting, what you'll tend to find is that very often your ideal clients will share similar values to you. And that can be useful. When you know what the values are that your ideal clients live by, again, that's something that you can build into the words that you use to attract more people. If you find you've got commonality with the values. Other things while you're asking these questions, while you're carrying out surveys, while you're gathering data and feedback, you might also want to start learning some more detailed things like what do people expect in terms of speed of response? What do people have in terms of communication preferences? These are all things that you could also start to learn about your ideal clients, other things that they might want. We can start to get detailed. But start with the big 4. They're the most important ones. So what else could we do to find out a bit more about our ideal clients? Because what we really want to do is, and this is really important, is we want to use the right language. If we can describe the problems of our ideal client using the exact words that they would use, then that's going to attract them to you. So how else could you do that? Well, once you start to figure out some problems, perhaps by asking your existing ideal customers, perhaps by asking some questions via some social channels like Facebook groups, once you start to identify what are some of the problems, the frustrations, the challenges that your ideal customers come up with, then what you can then do is do a Google search. Go onto Google, and it may well be that, let me think of an example. It may be that a challenge that is coming up over and over again is cash flow problems. So That might be a problem, and if that's a problem that's common amongst the sorts of people that you have as an ideal customer, then go into Google and you might type in something like how to overcome cash flow problems, and then what you might want to do is also look for and put into the Google search particular places that you're looking for. So it may be blog comments or Facebook groups. And Google will point you in the right direction of where people are asking about cash flow problems in forums, in blog comments, in, for example, YouTube videos, in Facebook groups, on Facebook pages, on Twitter. And you can then drill down. And if you can find, for example, a forum or Facebook group where someone's talking about cash flow problems and how to overcome cash flow problems, you can start to see the comments that are going through. And what are the other things what are related things that people are saying? What are some of the words they're using to describe the problem? What are some of the things people might be saying are causing the consequences? What are they saying there? They might be saying things that talk about the fears that they're having because of the cash flow problems. So we can do some research to start to uncover a little bit more and go a bit deeper into what our ideal clients' wants, fears, frustrations, aspirations are. This is all the research phase. And this might sound like a lot of hard work. It doesn't have to be. Start off just by interviewing some of your existing clients, existing customers, and then start to think about doing a few posts on social media. One of the things that we do very regularly is we have posts that go into Facebook groups and so on, and we schedule them to go automatically and repeat. So we might ask, there may be a post asking, what's your biggest challenge right now? And that might go out every 3 months. So we're constantly getting this feedback coming through as people answer those particular questions. Okay, so where are we at so far? We've talked about why it's so important to have an ideal client profile, and a little bit about, we've talked about how to create an ideal client profile, perhaps some of the characteristics to think about. We've then talked about what are the 4 things that we need to know about those ideal clients: the frustrations, the fears, the wants, the aspirations. And then we've talked about how do we start to get that information? Where can we do the research? Asking, surveys, social media, Google searches, lots of ways that we can start to gather that information. So the 4th area that I want to talk about is, having done that, what do we do with this information? What do we do with it? Well, really 2 things. I'm going to focus on one of them. But the other one that we can do is, once we know much better what it is that our ideal clients want, what's important to them, what they value, we can now apply that and start thinking about, okay, when we think about our product, our service, how can we make our product service better give them what they want? So if, for example, that you are running an accounting firm and you have a particular niche or particular ideal type of client, and they're all saying that one of their problems is they're just paying too much in tax, then that should lead you to the question, okay, so how can I make my accounting service be better at helping them reduce their taxes? Because if that's what they're saying they want, if that's the big problem, too high taxes, what can I do? How can I make that a real focus of my solution? If your ideal clients are talking about, if you're an accounting firm, bookkeeping firm, and they're talking about how they're worried about cash flow and they're worried about lack of profitability and slow growth, then you might be thinking, okay, so could I build in more of a business advisory service? How could I help my clients to grow their business, to improve their cash flow, to increase their profitability? Because if you can create a service offering that gives them what they're asking for, what they want, then you become much more valuable to them. And when you're more valuable, you'll attract many more of those types of clients with those problems and those wants. And secondly, you can start to charge premium prices when you create more value for people. So that's the 2 ways that we use this information. We use it to build a better product. to deliver a better service that gives people what they really want. And the second way that we use this information is from a sales and marketing point of view. We use this information to create the right words. And so I'm going to give you a framework or two to help you with this. So one of the ways that you can create some wording, perhaps for a website, for a brochure, for your marketing, is to really fill in the blanks to these four things. Firstly, what are the problems that people are having? Well, you've already asked this question, so you know what it is. So for an accountant, what are the problems that your clients are having? And so the starting point might be of your website might be, you know how most people have a problem with. And let's say the problem is cash flow. You know how most people have a problem with cash flow. Then you think about the consequences, the fears of that. So then we can use what's called a linking phrase, which means that. And so it might be just thinking back to what we talked about earlier with frustrations, with fears. We might now pull together something that says, you know how most people have a problem with cash flow forecasts, which means that, with cash flow, which means that they end up worrying about not being able to meet the payroll at the end of the month, and even worrying about losing their business. Well, what we do is, and then you describe what you do to help them overcome that problem and that fear. And then you use what's called a linking phrase, again, another linking phrase, the which means that, which way you can talk about the outcome. So it might be, you know how most people have a problem with cash flow, which means that they worry about meeting the payroll at the end of the month. They worry about losing the business. Well, what we do is we help business owners build a more profitable business, which means that you can sleep at night knowing that, or let me think of a different one. It may be the aspirations are they want to retire early, which means that you can retire early and live the life of your dreams. So I'm just using a framework that's really a four-step framework using those things we've already now discovered. You know how most people have a problem with. What's the problem? You've asked now, you've done the survey, the research, what's the problem? You know how most people have a problem with, which means that, what are the fears, the consequences? Well, what we do is, what is it that you do? Which means that, what are the benefits? What are the outcomes? What are the end results? What are the things they'll get, the wants and the aspirations as a result of that? So that's how we take the things that we learn and when we're using their words, I said to you before, when you get this information, whether it's by asking ideal clients, whether it's surveys, whatever, use their exact words, the things that people are telling you. The next thing we can then do is we can also take this information and build something that's really important in all of your marketing. And that's your positioning statement. Your positioning statement is a brief form of words that you can use on your website, in brochures, pretty much anywhere, that explains to people exactly how you help. And again, we can use a four-step process for this, a four-step framework. So the fear in the blanks would come after the words, I help, who are, to, and optionally without. So I help. Who do you help? Think back to your ideal client. Who do you help? So in my case, I would put, I help accountants and bookkeepers. So be very clear, your positioning statement should tell people exactly who is your ideal client, who is your niche, and the more specific, the better. So I help accountants and bookkeepers would be my example. Who are, and this is where you insert the problem. What is the problem? So I would put who are working, I help accountants and bookkeepers who are working crazy long hours for too little reward. So you would just insert what is the problem that you've uncovered. Then after the word to, you would insert the solution. So I might say, for example, I help accountants and bookkeepers who are working too hard, crazy long hours for too little reward. To, so I help them to, and then you insert the solution. What is it that you do? What's the specific result that they can look for? So I help accountants and bookkeepers who are working crazy hard for too little money to price much more effectively so that they can make more money and have more fun. And then you can put in a without is an optional extra one. You can put in without, because very often people, when they're looking to buy something, a solution, perhaps they're coming to you, what they don't want is the pain that goes with the change they might have to undertake. And in the case of pricing, one of the things I know is that I teach accountants, bookkeepers that they're too cheap, should put their prices up. And the big worry is if I put my price up, I'm going to lose some customers. I'm going to lose some clients. So I might attach that positioning statement and say, I help accountants and bookkeepers, that's who I help, who are working crazy hard for too little money to price more effectively, make more money with less effort, without the worry of losing clients from raising prices. So what's your equivalent? I help. Who do you help? Who are the problem? What's the problem? Who are? To is the solution or the specific result that you help them get. And if you want to, you could tag onto that without. What's the thing that they don't have to worry about? In my case, I teach people how to put their prices up without the worry of losing clients. That's called a positioning statement. And it's really easy to do when you've taken the time to really think deep about who is your ideal customer. It's so important. This is really the foundations of marketing. This is your marketing strategy. It's probably one of the most important exercises you can go through to be crystal clear on who is your ideal customer. Who do you help? Who do you work with? Don't fall into the trap of me back in 1996 when I tried to act for everybody. You can't be all things to all people. You need to be clear on who you are helping. So spend some time thinking about that ideal client, and then that first step of the positioning statement becomes really easy to do. I help. Who do you help? And then when you start to find out the fears, the frustrations, the wants, the aspirations, then it becomes easy to fill in the blanks. I help accountants and bookkeepers who are working crazy hard for too little money. I know that because I've done the research. I've asked the questions through Facebook groups and asking people direct. Okay, so very quick summary. We've looked at 4 things in this session. We've looked at why an ideal customer profile is so important and what it might look like. We've looked at what are the 4 things that you need to know. We've looked at how do we start to gather that information. And then we've looked at, well, what do we do with that information? And we use it to improve our service, our product offering, but also we use it as the foundations for our marketing. We create those all-important words that once you've then got those words, you can reuse them in so many different places. For example, when I write an eBook, I will put right at the start my positioning statement. It goes everywhere. Okay, we are almost ready for questions. I have a couple of things we have to do before questions, but if you have got a question, remember, put QQ in the chat box. Before we do that, 2 things. Number 1, we have a poll. You need to tell me what you'd like me to teach you next month. I'll give you the date in a bit. And so if I press this magic button here, we use Slido for the poll. And Sarah's going to put so there's 3 ways that you can get to the poll. If you've got a smartphone, you could hold it up to the QR code and that should take you to the poll. Or you can go to slido.com and put in 4245965. Or very soon, Sarah will be putting a link to this poll in the comments box in each of YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. So if you prefer to wait for the link, it's coming any minute now. Or use the QR code. And there are 5 options. So either I can teach you next month how to write great copy. I can see the votes coming in. How to write great copy, marketing copy, or perhaps you want me to teach you referral systems for getting new customers, new clients, or perhaps you want me to talk about menu pricing, the easiest way to get higher prices if you want a pricing topic again. Or if you like marketing, we could look at social media strategy, or we could look at what drives profit. How do you make more money from a bigger picture? What are the most important profit drivers? So let me know which one you would like me to teach you next month. We'll reveal results very, very soon. Before we do that, before I reveal the results, I've not seen the links go in the chat box yet, the comments, but I'm sure Sarah will do that, because another link coming as well. I mentioned that we are running a conference soon. It's called Value 2022. It looks like this. Here's the website. It's, I believe, the first in the accounting profession, the first ever value pricing conference. It's online, 3 days. I'll be teaching value pricing. And the great news is you can grab a free ticket to the conference. So Sarah's also going to put in the chat box, in the comments box, the link to go to grab your free ticket. So please do that. We will be putting the ticket price up to $197 nearer to the conference, but right now you can grab a free ticket. So please go and do that. And come and join me on October 4th, 5th and 6th, plus some other great speakers. If you are, by the way, an Academy member already, if you're one of my Pricing Academy members, do not use this link, because through the Value Pricing Academy, through the Bookkeepers Pricing Academy, there's a different link that you can use, which gets you some extra stuff. So if you're an existing Pricing Academy member, don't use this link. But if you're not, this is the best link for you to use to get a completely free ticket to the 3-day conference. Okay, I'm going to go back and reveal the results of the poll. I have no idea. This is just exciting for me as it is for you, because it's what I have to teach. Okay, how to write great marketing copy. That's a clear leader. So Sarah, we've got that. If you voted for referral systems, we always put the one that, it always does this. Whichever one's going to come second when we close it goes into the pot for next month to vote again. And at the moment, it's a 3-way split. So I'm just going to wait and see if we can get a tiebreaker. We need a vote in on those other 3, because one of those will put back into the poll for next month. And whilst I'm waiting for that, the date of the next one, the date we'll do that is September 29th. So put same time as usual, September the 29th. It looks like nobody's going to give us a clear second place. So if that's the case, I'm going to let Sarah pick one of those to go back into the pot again. So I'm going to close that. Okay. So that's September the 29th. We'll be looking at how to write great marketing copy. However, something special for you. I have another live stream, this time tomorrow. And I'm going to be with a special guest, Jim Rayner, and we're going to be talking about all things to do with forecasting. So if you're into forecasting, business advisory work, tomorrow is a live stream with Jim Rayner. Come and join us. You'll have a chance to ask questions. I also noticed at the corner of my eye, Sarah, that, and I'm going to close the poll now. Show results. No, I've messed it up. I've closed it. We do have a second place one. It was social media. That'll go back into the pot for next time. So next time, September 29th, tomorrow is forecasting with Jim Rayner. Right, we have 12 minutes. Let me get through as many questions as I possibly can in 12 minutes, which means I have to scroll back up. Just bear with me a second. There's so many comments that I can see. People like Karamba is here again. And Mindy Moore from Glendale is here. So first question was Lisa. Lisa, the first person to comment today as well. Mark, did you ever do bookkeeping for your clients yourself in your firm or just accountancy services? Personally, I never did bookkeeping, but we did offer bookkeeping services, and I had somebody in the team who was a bookkeeper. We didn't do a lot of it, and back in 96, 97, 98, 99, I had no idea how to I didn't discover value price until the end of 1999. So between 96 and and the end of 99. I was way too cheap. I priced wrong, and I had no idea how to price bookkeeping. I really didn't. I don't think we made money from that whatsoever. And also, back in those days, if anyone's as old as me, that was before the days of cloud accounting. So I think almost every client back then that we did bookkeeping for had those red cathedral cash books, you might remember. It was all very manual and time consuming. It must be so much easier today with cloud accounting systems like QBO. Okay, let's move on. Hope that helps, Lisa. Who was next? Nadeem Raja from Luton. Hi there, Nadeem. He says, by niching, will we be alienating our existing customers? That's an interesting question. I've never had that question before. It depends what you decide to do with them. I mean, if you decided I'm going to niche in this area and tell those customers you don't fit and they need to go somewhere else, then perhaps you will alienate them, but because that's a strategic decision. But if you are still going to be serving them at the same high level that you always have done, I don't see why that would necessarily isolate or alienate. And I know that it is a practical issue that if like me, you've built up a very general practice and then decide one day I really love working with engineers and I want to help them build more profitable businesses, then it doesn't mean that suddenly one day you suddenly stop acting for the other clients. It may be you start building a niche and building that alongside the general practice business until you get to a stage where you think, I'm now making so much money from my niche, perhaps I will now exit, sell the rest of the client base. So I've never had that question before, Nadeem, so I'm not sure if I answered it very well, but I hope that helps. So Beverly is here. Good morning, Beverly, to you. There's lots of questions or comments, I think, from Alexandra, but it's not, I don't think they're questions, so I'll skip over them for the moment because I'm just looking for questions because we only have 8 minutes left. But I will actually mention this because it fits in with what I just said. So Carla Thompson said, I recently posted in 4 Facebook groups where potential clients hang out and gained 2 new ideal clients. Congratulations. Well done, Carla. I'm a big fan of Facebook as a tool for marketing purposes and a big fan of Facebook groups. Everybody should be using them. Hello, Bill. Chris says, loves the template for positioning statement. Thank you for that feedback. Okay, so this is going to confuse me a bit because I have to scroll backwards and forwards because Alexander does say QQ of mine above. So one of those was a question. Yes, you put question in front. Sorry, my fault. I did see it when you first typed it and then I forgot. So Mark, do you think customers that even though our product services meet those big 4 aspects and delivers value, keep asking us to lower prices, comparing our solutions to similar product services that doesn't bring as much value as we deliver? Should we, in some point, let the customer go away? Okay, that's an interesting comment. So this really goes back to the ideal client profile conversation that there will be some clients that just don't appreciate you, don't value you, and you need to try and figure out, well, what's the thing that differentiates those that don't value you from those that do? And it might be sometimes it's a subjective, more of a subjective characteristic rather than objective. In other words, it might be that they have a particular attitude or particular mindset, or they could be people in a particular age bracket, for example. It may be that if you're a young accountant and you are really excited by some new stuff and so on, and some older business owners just don't see the value of that. They just want someone to just do the traditional stuff. Then you might decide, you know what, I want people who are more similar age to me, for example. I don't know if that answers the question, Alexander, because it's a long one, but so you're saying that you've got certain people who are still, even though you're doing a lot of stuff, solving problems with your service, your products, you've got people who are questioning the value and wanting you to lower prices. That could be that they're not ideal clients. But it could also be a communication issue. It could be that they don't see the value in what you do. So just because we think that our solution solves the problem, If they don't understand that, if we haven't communicated that in the right way, then they will see you as too expensive. And I think that for all of us as business owners, I think communication, the words that we use, are so important. It's one, I would argue, the most important skill of the soft skills that we should learn as a business owner is words. It's communication. Words are everything. We need the right words, the right communication. If we want to excel as leaders, as marketers, if we want to sell and convert more, we have to have the right words. And it may well be that people who are wanting you to reduce the price all the time, perhaps they just don't understand the value. Perhaps it is that you are creating great value. They just don't understand it. So we can have a conversation sometime in the future. We can look at communication because that's so important. I hope that helped a bit. Let me move on. I see lots of links to polls that Sarah posted. I'm not quite sure what this is in reference to, but it does say absolutely the best, so much value. Thank you for that. I forget what I said at the time. Chris has got a question. How do we resolve their concerns about making changes in order to achieve what they want? For example, if cash flow is the issue they're going to have to start reviewing a cash flow, how do we resolve their concerns about making changes? That's another question I've never had before, and a good question, Chris. So I think there's two parts to this. Partly it's about creating a compelling argument for how we demonstrate that we do resolve their problems. So if they've got concerns, problems right now, cash flow, for example, and we can solve that, we want to demonstrate that we can solve it. And partly that might be through I think largely down to some case studies, having testimonials, having other people. You've mentioned, Chris, you mentioned cash and cash flows. So assuming you've done cash flow forecasts for people before and helped them solve those particular problems, get those stories. Testimonials, case studies are so powerful because that gives you proof that you can show other people. So telling stories is one of the most powerful things you could do to demonstrate the results, the outcomes you can get. So that's the first part. You need to be really good at demonstrating that you can solve their problems, that can give them the outcomes that they're looking for. But the second part is then they're perhaps worried about the changes they're going to have to go through. So what you also need to do is, again, it's words, it's communication. You need to take away the risk, the pain, and make it as easy as possible to make that transition, whatever that they're going to have to do. You may have heard of something called the change curve, which is that when anybody makes any change in life, the results usually get worse first. The curve is something like this. It drops and then goes back up. The example often that's given is if you do golf, which I've never played golf in my life, but when you decide to get somebody to coach you on improving your golf swing, at first the results go downhill before they go back up again. So that's the change curve. And so very often if people have got a problem right now and they want to get to here, there's a change that they have to go through. Things might get worse to start with. And so you want to manage expectations and also talk about how you mitigate and reduce the pain that they will go through to get to those end results. I hope that helps a bit, Chris, who also says, so excited for the conference, which is awesome. We have 2 minutes left, and I have no idea how many more comments we've got. Let me just quickly check. I think there's lots of comments. I'm just looking for questions then. I did see one earlier. Let me just... Okay, so Maria, this is an easy one to answer. Where is the conference taking place? In the cloud somewhere, which basically means, Maria, you don't have to travel anywhere. You just have to, just like today, just show up at your computer in your office. You can even wear your pajamas if you want. Nobody will know, Maria. It's a virtual conference. So I'll be here in Portugal for that 3-day event. Okay, but thank you for asking me to clarify that. So Bill Robinson, what does Bill say? He's always enthusiastic, so I like reading his comments. Since I met you and started using Effective Pricing, that's the pricing software, and doing advisory services, and Bill's great with advisory, I have quadrupled my revenue. Wow, in 4 months, about to fire 2 clients, take on 1 new, hire first part-time help, Thank you. Wow. Bill, you are doing some amazing things. I know you've occasionally emailed me with some of the stuff you're doing. I'm very impressed with what you're doing. Okay, Sybil. This isn't a question for me. This is for other people, I think. Is anybody here using Alignable? I have no idea what Alignable is, Sybil, so I apologise. I won't be much help with this. But if anyone's using Alignable, reach out to Sybil. She's on Facebook right now. If that means something to you. Unfortunately, it doesn't to me. Okay. We are out of time. I need to finish now, but I do have one very quick one I can answer because Skylar's just joined us right at the very end. Yes, Sky, the good news is we've live streamed it to my YouTube channel, which means you can watch it as soon as it's processed, which we're about to wrap up now. So I guess it's going to be processed within minutes from now, and you can catch up, Skylar. Anyway, thank you for joining. As Liz might have said earlier, I forgot, I saw it. As Liz said, if you found this valuable, please just click the thumbs up button wherever you are, or the like button, whatever it is. I would really appreciate that if you've enjoyed it and got some value from it. And I will see some of you tomorrow when Jim Rayner joins me and we talk all things forecasting. So look out for that tomorrow. And the next of these sessions is September 29. And remember, grab your complimentary free ticket to Value 2022, the value pricing conference in October. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to play it with some music, as I always do, because it gives me some chance just to read all the rest of the comments and see what you've been saying. Thank you. Goodbye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on someone who's indifferent. He didn't love me right, he told me I was blind, but I never really wanted to listen.